The fluorescent lights in the ER buzzed like they were tired of shining. Ethan Cole sat alone in a hard plastic chair, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the swinging double doors that had swallowed his son 37 minutes ago. 37 minutes. He knew because he had counted every second. The smell of antiseptic burned his nose, and the distant sounds, monitors beeping, hurried footsteps, muffled voices, felt like they were happening in another world. A world where people knew what was going on. Ethan didn't. All he knew was that his 8-year-old son, Noah, had collapsed in the kitchen. One moment he was laughing, telling a joke about a penguin in sunglasses, and the next, he was on the floor, pale, shaking, barely breathing. Ethan clenched his fists. I should have noticed, he whispered to himself. I should have seen something, but he hadn't, because life hadn't given him the luxury of noticing. Not since his wife died. 3 years ago, cancer had taken Lily from them slowly, painfully, unfairly. Since then, Ethan had been everything: father, mother, provider, protector. He worked double shifts at the garage, came home exhausted, cooked, cleaned, helped with homework, tucked Noah into bed with stories he sometimes didn't have the energy to finish. And now this. Now his son was behind those doors, and Ethan had never felt more useless. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, burying his face in his hands. Please, he muttered, just let him be okay. Take anything from me, just not him. The doors swung open. Ethan shot to his feet, but it was just a nurse rushing past, not looking at him. His heart dropped again. He sank back into the chair, staring blankly at the tiled floor. You look like you haven't breathed in a while. The voice was soft, calm, and strangely steady. Ethan looked up. Standing a few feet away was a woman he hadn't noticed before. She was dressed simply, but everything about her felt different. Her posture was composed, her eyes observant, kind but carrying a weight he couldn't quite place. She looked to be in her early 40s, her dark hair tied neatly back, her coat draped over one arm. He blinked, confused. I'm fine, he said automatically. She didn't move. No, you're not, she replied gently. Ethan almost laughed, but it came out more like a broken breath. Yeah, he said, guess I'm not. There was a moment of silence. Then she stepped closer and sat in the chair beside him. Not too close, just enough. My name is Claire, she said. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Ethan. She glanced at the doors. Your child, my son, he said, his voice tightening. Noah. Claire nodded slowly, as if absorbing more than just the words. What happened? Ethan swallowed. I don't know. He just collapsed. He's always been healthy. I mean, he gets tired sometimes, but I thought it was just school, or growing. His voice cracked. Claire didn't interrupt. He was smiling. Ethan continued, staring at the floor. He was telling me a stupid joke, and then, he snapped his fingers. Just like that, silence settled between them again. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was shared. After a moment, Claire spoke. You've been doing this alone. It wasn't a question. Ethan let out a shaky breath. Since his mom died. Claire's eyes softened. I'm sorry. Ethan nodded, but his expression hardened slightly. Doesn't change anything. No, she said quietly. It doesn't. Another pause. Ethan rubbed his face. I can't lose him too, he whispered. I won't survive that. Claire looked at him, really looked this time. And something in her gaze shifted, like she understood more than she was saying. You won't have to, she said. Ethan frowned slightly. What do you mean? Claire opened her mouth to respond, but the doors burst open again. This time, a doctor stepped out, scanning the room. Mr. Cole. Ethan jumped to his feet. That's me. How is he? Is he okay? The doctor walked toward him, his expression serious but not hopeless. He's stable, he said. But we've identified a serious heart condition. It's likely been developing for some time. Ethan felt the ground tilt beneath him. Heart condition, he repeated. The doctor nodded. He's going to need surgery. Soon. How soon? As soon as possible. Ethan's chest tightened. How much is it going to cost? The doctor hesitated. It's a complex procedure. Without insurance coverage, you're looking at, he paused. A significant amount. Ethan let out a hollow laugh. Yeah, he said. That's what I thought. He didn't even ask for the number. Because it didn't matter. Whatever it was, he didn't have it. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll do everything we can. For now, he's resting. You can see him shortly. Ethan nodded, barely hearing him. As the doctor walked away, Ethan stood frozen. Then he slowly sank back into the chair. I can't afford this, he whispered. I can't. His breathing became uneven, his vision blurred. Claire reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Hey, she said softly. Look at me. He didn't. I said look at me. There was something in her tone, not forceful, but firm enough to break through. Ethan lifted his head, their eyes met, and that's when she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a quiet whisper. You don't have to be alone anymore. Ethan blinked. What? Claire held his gaze. I know what it feels like, she said. To sit in a place like this, thinking everything is about to fall apart, and there's no one to catch you. Ethan stared at her. How could you possibly? My husband died in this hospital, she said calmly. The words hit like a sudden silence. Ethan's anger faded instantly. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Claire nodded once. He was the strongest man I knew, she continued. And I still lost him. I sat right here, in this very waiting area, praying for a miracle that never came. Her fingers tightened slightly on her coat. For a long time, I thought that was the end of everything. That I was meant to carry that pain alone. She looked back at him. But I wasn't. Ethan swallowed. And now, she said, neither are you. He shook his head. I don't understand. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a simple card. She handed it to him. Ethan looked down. His breath caught. It wasn't just a name. It was a name he had heard before. A name everyone had heard. A name attached to one of the largest philanthropic foundations in the country. He looked back up, stunned. You're... Claire gave a small, almost reluctant smile. Yes. Ethan stared at her, speechless. But, why? He finally managed. Why would you help me? Claire's expression softened. Because someone helped me when I thought I had nothing left, she said. And I promised myself I'd do the same for someone else. She nodded toward the doors where Noah lay. Let me keep that promise. Ethan felt something inside him break. Not in a painful way. In a way that released everything he had been holding in for years. His shoulders shook. His vision blurred with tears he hadn't allowed himself to cry. I don't even know what to say, he whispered. Claire squeezed his arm gently. You don't have to say anything. For the first time since the doors had closed behind his son. Ethan exhaled. Really exhaled. And it didn't feel like everything was ending anymore. The surgery took place 2 days later. Ethan didn't leave the hospital. Claire didn't either. She sat with him through the long hours, sometimes speaking, sometimes simply being there. And for the first time in years, Ethan wasn't carrying everything alone. When the surgeon finally walked out, removing his mask with a tired smile. It was successful. Ethan broke down completely. Relief flooded through him like a wave he couldn't stand against. Noah would live. Weeks later, Noah was back home. Weaker, but smiling again. Telling jokes again. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood in the doorway watching his son laugh. Claire stood beside him. You saved him, Ethan said quietly. Claire shook her head. No, she replied. We saved him. Ethan looked at her, and in that moment, he realized something deeper than gratitude. Sometimes, the people who walk into your life in your darkest moment aren't just there to help you survive. They're there to remind you. You were never meant to do it alone.